Hello, welcome back to the Mobile Motorbike Mechanic channel. I'm Steve. Today we're heading off to Warwick to go and work on our Honda Hornet CB600. We're carrying out a valve clearance check on the bike today, possibly doing a valve adjustment. We'll find out once we've done the valve check. So we'll see you when we get there. Right folks, so CB600F, the Honda Hornet. What we're going to be doing on this one today is a valve clearance check. Maybe doing a valve clearance adjustment, we don't know until we get in there and check them. Remember to hit subscribe and hit the bell notification for other videos on this bike, because we've got a couple of videos coming out. A general servicing video, we've got a coolant flush, we've got a brake flush, other bits and pieces as well. Right, so now we've got the tank gone, we can get down onto this cylinder head, the valve cover here. So we need to undo the valve cover bolts, we need to get the plugs out, we need to get the plug leads gone, and we need to get the coil packs as well gone so that we can lift the valve cover and get it out. It can only go that way because the radiator hose and everything's in the way on this side. So we'll just get in and start undoing everything here, so we can get this valve cover off. Right, so we just start undoing everything because we need to get these coils out of the way. We need to get this earth strap, this point here, because we've got to get all that out of the way to get this up. So if we just start undoing stuff left, right and centre. Let's start with that coil bracket there. Okay, and then we can undo that one as well. Where did he go? Oh, down the back of the starter motor. Of course he did. Eee, lucky. Lucky, lucky, lucky. Got that out. Right, so same again on the other side, those two around that side. Okay, so there's one. This is a pretty involved process doing the valves, and I get asked a lot. We get a hell of a lot of inquiries from people saying, how much is it to do me valves? The simple answer is I don't know. And the reason why I say I don't know is because until you've measured the clearances, you don't know how many need changing. Until you've measured the clearances, you don't know if any need changing. Until you've got down and removed this cover and measured the clearances, you don't know any part of the job. And getting this valve cover off is probably the biggest part of the job until we actually start taking the cams out and things like that. So on a bike like this, unfaired, well, we've been here all of about 15-20 minutes. We've got the seat off, got the tank off, got the panels off, and we're getting to the valve cover. On something like a modern CBR1000 Fireblade or something like that, seat off, side panels off, tank off, airbox off, throttle bodies out, all the fairing removed, remove the radiator just to get to the valve cover, and then you've got to take the valve cover off, and then you've got to measure the valve clearances. That's probably 3 hours just on its own. That's without doing the job. That's just to get to where you need to get to. On this one, hopefully it'll be about an hour and we'll be down here. So when you go and inquire about how much it's going to cost to do a job like this, make sure you're getting an accurate quote. Because if a bike shop just says, oh, 600 quid, how do you know it's 600 quid? Because you haven't even checked the valve clearances. Quite a lot of bike shops will do a valve clearance check and then an adjustment on what they find in the valves. So just bear that in mind. Anyway, I'm going to crack on. Got the coils removed, got all the air recirc gubbins all out of the way. So we're now down to the cylinder head here. So as you can see, there's a lot more room around it. So what we're going to do, we'll pull the plugs out just because we're changing the plugs anyway. So we'll plug the plugs out, and then I can start undoing the bolts to get the valve cover off. Yeah, so we'll crack on. If you weren't changing the plugs, you might want to pull the plugs out anyway, just to make life a little bit easier for you later on. But like I say, we're changing the plugs on this bike, so we're pulling them out anyway. And these don't seem to be particularly tight. But there we go. Right. Oh, most important, when you're doing a valve clearance, the engine must be cold. So ideally, they say in the manual, I think it's below 30 degrees. So if you're in a hot country and it's a hot day and you're out in the full sun, you might be over temperature, even with a cold engine. But highly unlikely, but you never know. Anyway, so for viewers in hotter countries, just remember you got to be below about 30 degrees. So you lucky people with air conditioned workshops. And we're here in the rain. Right, so that's all 4 plugs out. They're not too bad. They're looking a bit old, but they're not too bad. So like I say, we're changing them anyway, so they're going to go in the bin. Right, moving on. Valve cover removal next. Right, that's all 6 of the valve cover bolts out. So let's chuck those in a pot somewhere. Keep them safe. Right, so now we just need to remove the valve cover. If your valve cover is particularly dirty, give it a wash, give it a clean off. This one's okay, but yeah, you don't want anything like dirt and bits of grit and what have you falling inside the engine. So what we'll do, we'll get a soft faced hammer and just give it a tap on each corner and just work it loose. Soft faced hammer, this is a dead blow. You can hear the shot inside it, so when it hits it doesn't bounce back. I'm just going to just give it a tap, and we're pulling up on the cover at the same time. That's starting to go. Go around the other side and do the same again. There he is. There we go. Right, one valve cover ready to come off. These valve covers should only be stuck where these little half moons are. You shouldn't be putting any sort of glue or anything on any other part of the valve cover. So just get it all unstuck. There he is. Right. So now it should just be a question of lifting it up and pulling it out, he says. Should. I can already see a problem. Okay, stop. Right, so one thing I've noticed is these air breathers, they're not going to clear the frame when we lift the valve cover off. So I'm just going to remove those. I didn't realise before that. I should have done them before. And they are in there. Now the plugs are out. You really don't want to be dropping that down the plug hole, so be bloody careful. Okay, done. Right. So those breathers are off. It just gives us a little bit of extra room to be able to lift up the cover and get it off, he says. There we go. One valve cover. Just make sure you've got the 4 dowels in the bottom. Sometimes they stick in the head. Sometimes they fall out. If they fall out, find them for God's sake. But anyway, valve cover's gone. So now we can get on and start looking at the valve clearances. So with the valve cover removed, what we need to do is we need to set the engine to top dead centre on number 1 cylinder. So in order to do that, we take this timing cover off the right side of the engine here, and oh, there we go. You might get a little drip of oil out of it, so have a rag handy. Yep. Oh, there you go. There's a little drip of oil. Right. And with that timing cover removed, that gives you access to that bolt there on the end of the crank. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to rotate the engine over. You can turn the engine over now. So if you look at the cams up here, as we're turning this over, this is the reason why we took the plugs out, because it's not much easier to do it with the plugs out. So as you can see, we're turning the engine over there. Okay. So as the engine's turning over, I don't know if you can see, but there are timing marks on the cam sprockets. Okay, so if we set that E, you see there's a line on it. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to get a torch and I'll get some yellow paint. It will make life easier. Right, so we've got our little paint marker and we've got a torch, and what I've done is I've just coloured with paint, I've just coloured that mark in, and it actually says in. It doesn't say exhaust at all, EX, it says IN, which is intake. So I'm glad we painted it up. Anyway, what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn it around until I find the exhaust mark, which is going to be around there somewhere. There it is, EX, that's the exhaust mark. So again, I'm going to clean it off. It's cleaned off. We'll get our paint marker. We'll just dab a bit of paint over it, and then with your finger wipe away the excess, and that leaves a nice crisp clean mark. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn that around until that matches. Bum, 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 bum. There. So that, if you come right down and eyeball it on a level, that split in the crankcase, or in the cylinder head I should say, that split matches that line on the exhaust mark. Okay, now if you come over to the intake cam, it's quite difficult to see because it's behind this radiator hose, but you can see there's an intake mark on the intake cam, and there's a line, and that lines up with the split on this part here. So what I'll do, I'll move that into a position where I get some paint on it, clean it up, set the cams again, and then we can get in there with the camera and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So with the inlet intake cam and the exhaust cam now set up, as you've seen, we just want to get in here and check our timing mark, yeah, it's there on the end of the crank. So again, it's quite difficult to see. And what I'll do, I'll put some paint on it and then you can come in and have a look in it in a second. Right, so with the timing mark on the outside of the engine and the timing mark on the crank set, and we know up the top here we've got our cams set correctly, we should be at top dead centre on number 1 cylinder. So the easiest way to check is get a very small screwdriver and just gently feel to see if you can feel the piston on number 1. Let's go around there and have a look. Right, so we've come around to number 1 cylinder and we can see this cam lobe here is pointing out and this cam lobe here is pointing out. So we're either at top dead centre on number 1 or we're not. And if we just, like I say, very, very gently, you just feel, and that's the piston just there. So yeah, piston's at the top of its stroke, cam lobes are in the correct position. We know the cams are set correctly, and we know the crank's set correctly. So we're on number 1. Now we can check the valve clearance on number 1 piston. It's not getting any better. Absolutely chucking it down. Right, so we've got the engine set on TDC number 1 cylinder. So what we're going to do is we're going to check the valve clearances on this cam. So this is the intake cam, this is the exhaust cam. So we're going to check the valve clearances on the intake. So we're going to check this valve here, and there's one underneath here as well. So what you're going to do is you're going to take a feeler gauge. So you need to look up in your manual what the clearance should be. And then it will be plus or minus 0.03 or something like that. So normally they range from 16 to, what is it? No, 13.13 to 0.19 on the intake. So if we go 0.13, if that fits, then we know we're kind of good. Anyway, so 0.13, and what we're going to do is we're going to follow the lobe around, and then you'll see just there is the bucket that's over the top of the shim, and we're just going to check in there. Now that one fits in lovely, and you can even see it coming out the back side here, so you know it's right the way through and no issues. Okay, so that's 0.13. So we want to know what that size is, so we'll go up to the next size up, which is so bloody dark I can't see it. 1.5. That's it, and 1.5. Oh yeah, we're through. I thought that was going to stick, but no, he's through. So 1.5's good, and then 0.18 is the next one on me. So 0.18's not going through. We know 0.15 will go through. So we know it's somewhere between 0.15 and 0.18. So that lobe, that shim on that valve is okay. So now we're going to check the next one. One down, 15 to go. Right, so we're on to the next valve, which is just in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our smallest feeler gauge, and we're going to get down into the clearance, and yep, you can see that's going through. Lovely job. So then we're going to come up to our next one. So that's 1.3. We're going to come up to a 1.5 now. And the 1.5 will not go through. So we need to accurately check that one. So can we get 1.4 out of these feeler gauges? So 0.06 and 0.08 equals 0.14, I think. So I'll put those two feeler gauges together and try and get it in the hole, and we'll see what happens there. Is that going through? Yeah, that's going through. So 1.4's going through, but 1.5 isn't. So That one's at 0.14. So we've done the intake valves, now we need to do the exhausts. So again, look in your manual, 2.2 to 2.5 on these ones. So we've got a 2.3, let's see if that's going to fit in there. Nope, that's not going to go. And then on the next one, no, that's not going. So we're going to have to create a 2.2. So what we're going to do, I'm going to go down to 2 mil, 0.2 mil. It's not going. It's not going. This doesn't surprise me. So we'll go down to the next one down, which is 0.18. Because what we need to do is we need to determine what size these are. We know they're out of spec now. 0.18's not having it. No. These are really tight. 0.15. No. 0.15, no. This is a concern. 3. Ah, okay, so we're down to 1.3 on that one and 1.3 on that one. Wow, that is majorly out of tolerance on those two. So just going to go back to 1.5 again and check and double check. Yeah, 1.5 goes through, but it's horrible. Yeah, so 1.5 is going through on those, but it's not nice. Okay, so with number 1 cylinder done, we need to now move on to the next cylinder. So what we're going to do is we're going to rotate the engine over until we get to the timing marks for the next one, and then carry on checking. Right, so after quite a bit of time, we've checked all the clearances on this bike, and every single one apart from that one is out of tolerance. That is on, yeah, that one's on tolerance, but all the rest are out of tolerance, basically out of spec. They're not too bad, you know, they're not like wildly out, but they are out. So what we're going to have to do with this one is we're going to have to carry on and actually adjust the valve clearances.